Greetings and welcome to Module 4. Today we're going to look at how to build responsive ads in Google Web Designer. Just a quick introduction on who the two presenters are. My name is Artwell and I'm the creative lead for Google, and Marcel is the GMP lead. GMP is the Google marketing platform. Today I'll be taking you through most of the session. But just before we get started, I just want to quickly take you through the modules that we've covered so far and the modules that we'll cover going forward. So in module 1, we've looked at an intro to DV360 and some other templates that can be used for creative. Module 2, we did a very basic intro into Google Web Designer. In module 3, we looked at the Google Web Designer components, and then module 4, we jumped into we're jumping into how to build responsive ads. The modules to follow after this is going to be module 5, which is how to execute data-driven creative. So this will be run by myself and Marcel. I'll be playing the part of a creative agency, and Marcel will be playing the part of the media agency, and we'll show you the workflow of creating data-driven creative. And then module 6, we'll look at how to build a Microsoft in a display banner. And then the last module, which you see, is TBC and empty. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take feedback on any elements that you feel we may have missed, and then fill those slots and create trainings for those sessions. So yeah, let's quickly jump into today's session. So today's content is divided into 3 parts. The first will be a recap of Google Web Designer and components. So that was module 2 and module 3. We'll recap on that. And then we'll jump into building responsive ads, what it's about and why it's important. And then from there, we'll jump into a live demo. So let's quickly jump into the recap of Google Web Designer and components. So Google Web Designer, what is it? It's a free tool that you're able to download. You just need to Google search Google Web Designer, click on download for either Mac or Windows. It's a tool that allows you to build HTML5 display banners without having any coding skill whatsoever. It's very easy to use. Everything is drag and drop. You can also build games, and you can also build websites and other HTML5 assets. So it's a really useful tool, especially considering that it's free. So what are the top features? You've got full control of authoring. So you can build interactive stuff, animated, dynamic, and responsive media. It's the top authoring tool for creating display across all of our Google products. It allows you to create from templates or create from scratch. So you really got flexibility on how you want to build. And it's deeply integrated with DV360, Studio, ads, and the like. So what does it allow you to create? HTML5 assets, dynamic ready assets, which we'll cover in module 5, responsive assets, and templated assets. So what does that mean for you? You can build much more faster, which means you're saving money. You're able to build simple animations and complicated animations in a simple manner. Easy to add interactivity. The components are all drag and drop. If you watch the previous video, you'll see how easy that is. The product features a validations panel, which tells you the health of your asset as you're building it, so that you know that by the time you're done, it's ready to go live on DV360 or whatever platform you're using. It's for both designers and developers, so you can use code or you can use design, but you can still come out with the same outcomes. You can build responsive assets to many spaces, and you can build data-driven creative using. Quick recap of what the interface looks like. The interface is divided into 5 parts. You've got your toolbar, which is very much structured like the Adobe setup. We've got the top bar, which has got all your alignments and all those kinds of features. Again, also very much similar to Adobe. This is structured so that if you're jumping in for the first time on the tool, it's easy for you to integrate into the tool and it doesn't look too foreign. Same goes with the bottom piece, which is the timeline. Also, again, structured very much for in the same way that other tools you'd expect them to find them. And then there's this panel here, and this is where the big difference kicks in. On this panel here, this is where you'll find your components, your properties, your validations box. These are the things that allow you to create for data-driven, allows you to integrate some interesting components. So those would usually sit there, but you can customize the workspace however you want it to sit. This can all sit on the left and vice versa. Sorry. And then number 5, here is where you are able to preview your work. You're able to jump into code view if you want to do some hard coding. If you want to stick in the design view, you can jump onto here, and it's also where you can publish. So the interface divided into those 5 parts. Once you get a grasp of those 5 parts, it's really easy to then move on and create your assets. Just to highlight from the last module that we did, and if you haven't done it, I recommend you take a look at it. We looked at components. Components are really the heart and the core of Google Web Designer and creating Google Web Designer. Basically, all it is a bunch of folders that have got a whole lot of interactive features that you can simply drag and drop onto your canvas. So if you want to make a carousel gallery, you just drag and drop it onto your banner and then upload images, and you've got a carousel gallery. This visual is fairly old. It doesn't have all the components. There's quite a lot of them. There's 3D, there's tap to call, or which I see there. There's image effects, there's particles. So there's quite a lot of components that you can use. And if a component doesn't exist, you can create your own components and save it and share with your team so that everybody has those new components. And if you want even more components, you can just search the internet. There's lots of people creating components that you can add direct into Google Web Designer. So let's look at the main subject for today, which is building responsive ads. So what are responsive ads? Responsive ads is creating one ad asset that then resizes to fit all other ad sizes. And how this is done is by using the responsive panel within Google Web Designer and using media rules. So basically, you would create this first asset here, if you can see my arrow, and you would make media rules that if the asset is longer than X, it will look like this. If it is a thin ad, it will look like that. If it is a horizontal ad, it will look like that. If it is a short horizontal ad, it will look like that. So basically, of one asset, you can then make sure that it resizes for multiple assets, multiple sizes. So I think this GIF really explains shows it quite well. So as you create those media rules, you can see them at the top. At the top, those are the media rules. The layout changes as you reach each one of those media rules, right? And it will be a bit more clear when I demonstrate. So you can see now they're going for longer ad assets, and the asset changes there. So it's an easy to use interface where you can pretty much drag and drop those assets and build your responsive ads. So the best way to show it to you is through doing it on a live demo. I'm going to quickly jump into Google Web Designer. So before I actually create a responsive ad, I just want to take you to a template so you can see a responsive ad in action. As mentioned in the templates, there's lots and lots of templates that you can jump into and use. So what you would do is you would jump into banner for Google Ads. Then you would look for responsive ads 300 by 250, click on use layout, title it, I'll call it 111. Then I'll click create. So if I jump into my preview in Chrome, what we'll see is multiple versions of one banner asset. As you can see that when it's really, really small, they just show you the logo. In some instances, you have the kettle. Some instances, you don't have the kettle. Some instances, the text is big. Some instances, the text is small. So you can see here, there's no text. Here, there's more text. So the wider and the bigger it gets, the more assets that you can add in. So that's really responsive assets in a nutshell. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to create a responsive asset from start. So I'm going to call this responsive 1. So I'm building my base asset is going to be a 300 by 250. I'm going to click on responsive layout. I'm going to click OK. So first thing that I'm going to show you is how to start using the breaking points and how they work via media rules. So I've clicked on my responsive tab at the beginning. Make sure that all these three are clicked. So transform, control, align to container, and fluid layout. Make sure that's always clicked in. I'm going to bring on some text. So I'm going to type in banner. I'm going to make this big and center it. And I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to look for an image that I can add into my responsive asset. And it's going to be this mobile device here. And then I'm going to center to the middle. So what I'm doing when I'm centering to the middle is that I'm telling the system that these two things will always be centered to the middle of whatever size. So what I mean by that, if you look here, you see it's always centered to the middle. So I could have centered it horizontally. It was going to center always to horizontal. So that's what it looks like here, right? So if I jump into my preview, you can see that not all sizes have been catered to because I haven't created any media rules, but you can see where it's fitting well, and then you can see where it isn't fitting well. So where media rules kick in is when you need to start making rules for these kinds of situations, for these sizes here. So I'm going to jump back into Google Web Designer. And this is where media rules kick in. So you would need to have the responsive tab open, and you click on media rules, and you're going to click the plus sign because you're going to create a new media rule. So what you're going to say here is, I'm going to create a media rule for the width, right? So I'm going to click width. So I'm going to say, if the banner is wider than 445, so I'm going to drag that. I want the layout to look like so. All right. So when I test it out, normal banner, wider than 455. So as you can see already, we're starting to see how it works. But I want to make a media rule for the height. So I'm going to click on height breakpoint. I'm going to add a breaking point at 394. I'm going to take that to there. And I'm going to say, at this point, I want my phone to be bigger. And I want this to be more centered. So if I jump into that, so my width is that layout, my height is that layout. There you go. So in a nutshell, that's really the basics of how to create a responsive banner. Now I'm going to attempt to create a full responsive banner just so you can see the full workflow. So I'm going to title it responsive 2. I'm going to click on the responsive layout tab. I'm going to still open with a base canvas of 300 by 250. And I'm going to click OK. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some creative assets that I'm going to use for my responsive banner asset. So if you're planning to have assets change, so you see here I've got a car, and if I wanted to change and say, when my banner asset is X size, I want to have a red car, and when it's X size, I want to have a white car. Make sure you bring in all the different changeable assets right at the beginning, because once you start making media rules, you can't bring in any more assets. So I'm going to drag in the car, place it in the I'm going to bring my car, resize my car to fit in quite nicely. And then the logo for the fake car brand will be added in like so. Remember, what I mentioned earlier on is, if you want all your assets to center, to always be centered from the middle, then do exactly like I've done here. I clicked center in the middle, and that's what I've done here. So when I click, that is my responsive asset. But as you can see, that when it grows bigger, it doesn't exactly fit to size. Now, like I mentioned earlier on, this is all based on media rules. But instead of clicking on media rules and then scrolling on the side at the top here and selecting media rules, you can actually use presets that are made for you, because otherwise it's quite time consuming to go, I want to make a width media rule and then scroll and go up to 300. That's quite time consuming. What you can do is there's some presets that are already made for all ad sizes, and you could go, okay, for 300 by 600, I want my ad to look like so. So I want my image to be a little bit big. I would like my car to be centered like so. And I want my logo to be made like so. What I like doing is I like to drag the ruler. So the ruler here, just so that I can make sure that I'm still within my lines, because I can't see how big the canvas is. So I know that I can make my car bigger. I can make this logo substantially bigger, place it like so. And then from there, I can make a new media rule, and I can make, I've made width, and I can make for height, right? So what that means is when I go back to this normal size, it's like so. When I drag up to the long size, it's like so. So let's try a new media rule. So I'm going to go, so I've already created for that. I'm going to create for 468 by 60. So I'm going to make my image be, sorry, I'm going to keep the car out of this because it's quite a thin one. I'm going to make my image fairly big. I'm going to move my ruler so I can see where the endpoint is. I'm going to add another ruler so I can see the full canvas. So I can see my layout. It looks like so. And it's going to simply just have this logo centered. Right. And then I'm going to add my media rule just by clicking width breaking points, height breaking points. So it's registered that. So what's going to happen now is when I resize to all the different sizes, it shows all the specs that I can get within those sizes. So as you can see, it's left out the car here, and then by 300 by 600, it's kept it there, and we've got our 300 size also, which seems to have disappeared on me, but it's somewhere there. Then let's do another size. So let's do a very difficult size, which is like so. So here I'll create another ruler here, drag it to the center here, and then I'll grab another ruler, drag like that, just so I can see my sizes. And I can then make this car smaller. For this one, I can leave out the car. And then I create my media rules. So it's a width breaking point here. And then what I can do now is play around, and I can see that all my different sizes. So that's the 300. That's if it's at that width, if it's, okay, so I'm actually seeing something that I've made a mistake on. So you see the 300 width here. So what I've done is I've got two conflicting media rules, which is the 300 width. So I overrode my original square size by creating the 600. So what I can do is that I can actually go inside here and then delete the overriding media rule. But basically what that leaves us is we haven't created for all the sizes. So let's jump into here. So we can start to see that it's starting to accommodate for all the widths that all the assets that are wider than 468 look like so. As you can see here, it's taking the rules for the wider than 468. And then it's taking the one rule where I just only added in the logo and placed it like that. Then we can see on the bigger ones, it's done like so. And then on the thinner ones, it's done like so. So if you only wanted to create, if you didn't want to create for all sizes, what you can do is do like what I've done and create for, say 1, 2, 3 sizes. When you upload into DV360, you can then select the sizes that you want it to be served on. So you don't have to worry about creating for all sizes. But if you do create for all sizes, just make sure that you don't override any creating existing assets. The beauty of this is that you can check it in your previews. Once it's created, you can also then create a shareable link, which you can then share with your team, so they can see exactly the same preview that I've seen now. And it's a really great way for getting your direct teams to see to get your direct teams to see exactly what the issues are, or if there aren't any issues, and also to getting your clients to then jump through and improve. So I'm just going to go back to the presentation. So that's a live demo. So, I mean, it's a really quick and easy asset to create. Again, just to recap, just make sure that when you're creating your media rules, you don't override any existing media rules. As you're creating your media rules, always jump into the preview and make sure that you're checking that things are working out. To make your life easier, use the preset sizes that are made. And so just select the preset size and then click on the media rule that you want to make. And if you want to make any custom media rules, it is possible in the same preset section. Just click on custom media rules and you can create any size that you want to create. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next module that's to follow. Thank you.